everyone, welcome back to Feather Stitch House. My name's Rebecca and each week on this channel I make videos about embroidery and textile art to help you get creative. Can you believe that we're in week 23 of this year's Winging It project, Pick of the Pots? Now this is a really low octane project. You can join in with as much or as little of this as you like. Each week I take a random pick from my 3 plant pots. One contains colours, the second contains shapes and the third contains stitches, and we use these prompts to improvise a piece of textile art that we put in our little sketchbook. So we've had some quite unusual combinations over the last couple of weeks, and thank you to everyone that had a go at the origami. I totally understand those of you that didn't. I wonder what we're going to get today. I'm going to head into my studio and let's get picking. It's that time of the week again, and I'm really hoping for something good because last week's didn't really inspire me very much. Well done to those of you that did the origami. I totally understand if you didn't. Oh, please be something interesting. What have we got from colour? Oh, mint. So mint green is our colour. I like that. Anything green. Oh, I've forgotten to start the clock. Oh well, too late now. What have we got in the way of shapes? A cross. Okay. What we'll do with that. And please be a good stitch. Please be a good stitch. Bars. Oh, okay. Alright, I think this leans towards abstract. So I'll demonstrate what I mean by bars. These are stitches that where you set a bar and then you can put something over the top. So I'll show you a couple of versions of bar stitches and then we'll get creating. Right, so sorry about the stopwatch, you just have to trust me. So we've got mint, a cross shape, and bars. Oh, I need to have a think about this one. Right, I'll be back in a second. Right, here we go. I've got my piece, I've got my hoop, and I've got some thread. I've got a nice chunky thread so that you can see it okay. So bar stitches, I'm going to show you a couple so that you've got some options. The first one's probably the easiest. So this is a blanket stitch bar. Let me come in a little bit closer. So I've brought my thread through and I'm going to make a long stitch like that and pull down, and then I want to do maybe 3 of these. So try to line up. These can be totally functional, but they also work in a really decorative way. So, right, I've got 3 long stitches, and then I want to come up back at the beginning, right at the first stitch. And we did this last week, but I'm going to use the eye of my needle because I don't want to catch the fabric and I don't want to catch the threads I've already stitched. So what I want to do is work some blanket stitch over this bar. So I've got my thread coming up at the top there. I'm taking it all the way around and I want to slide my needle underneath those 3 stitches and out over the top of that loop of thread. And I want to pull over to the left to keep it nice and tight. You can help it along a little bit. It will correct itself though, so don't worry too much. Okay, so thread over the top, all the way around, underneath, making sure my needle passes over that working thread, and pull. So all the way around, up underneath, and out over that working thread. And we are going to carry on doing that until we've filled up the bar. You want to try and keep your tension fairly even. You don't want one stitch that's a lot tighter than all the others, and every now and again you can just push it along a little bit with your needle or with your nail. So when you have filled up that bar, I'm just going to go back to the point of my needle. I want to go back down through the fabric at the end there, and I can finish it off the back. And what we've got is a little bar that is separate from the fabric, so if you make your bars longer you'll have more of a loop. I'm just going to show you how to do that. Okay, so it makes like a little bridge, and just like before, when we get to the end and we filled up those stitches that we put in, just going to go back through to the back and secure my thread. So that's a flat bar. We've got a sort of bridge bar here. Now there's one more that I want to show you, and that is called a picot bar. I'm going to make this one a little bit longer just so that I can demonstrate it. And just like before, we want 3 stitches. If you don't want to create such a long stitch on the back, you can sort of weave backwards and forwards. Like that. And I want to come up, I'm just going to come up at the end that I'm at, and just flip. Let's flip it this way. I want to flip my hoop so that I'm working horizontally now. So we stitch those horizontally, rotating 90 degrees so that I can carry on working horizontally. And we're going to weave this bar. So this is a woven bar, or it's sometimes called a picot bar. So I'm using the eye end of my needle again. I want to go over the first stitch, under the second stitch, and over the third stitch, and pull through. And I can use the eye of my needle to push that down to make it nice and secure. Right, so I went over that time. This time I want to go under, over, under, and pull through. So now I want to do the opposite again. I want to go over, under, over. So while your needle's in, you can use that to push the threads down together as well. And I'm going to go back, going under, over, under. So over, under, over, under, over, under. And we're just going to work our way along those stitches, filling in the space like before, but this time weaving. Okay, so that is those stitches filled up, and just like before, I'm going to go down to the back, and that leaves us with a bar that is separate from the fabric. So just like before, if you want to, you can make a larger stitch there and make a raised bar, but that's 3 different ways of doing a bar stitch. So we've got a flat buttonhole bar, we've got a raised bridge buttonhole bar, and this is a woven or picot bar. I really like the way that looks, particularly with a nice chunky thread. I think that would look amazing in variegated as well. So I'm going to gather some bits and pieces and we'll create something. Okay, here we go. I've got my mint felt. I really like this one. I've got a bunch of minty threads. This one is a linen thread from Studio Flax. I've got no idea what shade it is, but it's just a lovely minty green. I've got a more sort of earthy minty green. I may or may not use this one. This is what I used in the stitch demo just because I wanted it to show up a bit better. Might not need that one, but I've got it handy. Then I've got this sheepies thread. This is shade 402 silver green, and love that one. That's a proper frosty mint. And then I've got this lovely variegated DMC in all sorts of minty shades, and that is shade 4040. Loving that one. And you might notice here this little mess. I've got some very thin strips of fabric. So again, mint, not a colour I've got lots of fabrics in, but I've got some corduroy that's in a minty shade. I've got some of this, it's like a cream background, but it's got this mint green leaf and then a frosty blue as well. And I've got some mint polka dot. And I thought we would have a go at a bit of weaving to make our cross. Now you could do a vertical cross like that. I think I'm going to do a diagonal one. So you can interpret cross how you like. You could do it like a cross stitch, but or you could do it as like a vertical cross like the red cross, or I suppose you could do even like a religious sort of cross if you are so inclined. So yeah, you could do that if you wanted to. And I thought we could weave. So I'm just getting some strips, and I'm not worrying about whether they're right butted up next to each other. I'm going to cut off any excess because we may well be able to use these little bits. So I'm just adding them at the edge, so a little dab of glue and just a little strip. I have got this sort of diaphanous stuff which I think is going to be a nightmare, but I quite like it, and it was mint and it was one of the few fabrics I got, so I think that'll do going in that direction. And let's go back in the other direction. So I'm just laying them on at the moment, making sure the angle's right, and then we can weave them together. I can't believe that I haven't done any weaving. I did have to track back through all of the all of the pics so far because I couldn't work out whether we'd done it or not. I'm just gonna, I don't want both of the diaphanous ones together at the bottom of the cross. Right, so I've just got 4 going in each direction. We may add more or we may not. So I'm just going to flip them back, and I want to put one down there, and then I'm going to pop this one over the top. So this one's going over, this one's now going, sorry, this one's going under the diaphanous one, this one's now going over. And then we're going to lift that one back up and go under, and then this diaphanous one is going to go over. Magic. Right, so we've gone, let's look at this diaphanous one here. It's gone over, under, over, under. So our next one, we're going to start by going under. Then we go over. We want to go under the polka dot one and over the diaphanous one. This is too long, it's getting on my nerves. I think that's part of my problem. Right, okay, so we've got a little bit of weaving. So now we're doing this polka dot one. We went under that one, so this time we're going to go over, then underneath the corduroy, over the polka dot, and under the diaphanous one. And then finally we want to go under and then over and then under and then over. So that is our cross. Right, oh, nobody move. Right, I'm going to put some glue just to hold our strips in place. So I'm doing these right at the edge, trying to pull them so that they're taut but not stretched. Like that. And then in the other direction as well. And I'm just going to trim off any bits that are ridiculously long. So that's the beginnings of our cross. Right, let's get some of this nice silvery green. And just to secure them, I'm going to running stitch around the edge. So just super simple. In my silver green thread, I'm going to go around the outside, and as I stitch over the fabrics, that's going to stitch through them and hold them in place. I'm questioning the wisdom of the diaphanous fabric, but I do quite like the way it looks. So it's going to fray, shred to nothing probably, but I like it, just a bit of shimmer. There you go. So you get the idea. I'm just going to stitch around those to secure them, and then we'll add some bars. Right, that's my cross stitch down. So I'm going to add bars. I was tempted to do them kind of horizontally, but I think I want to do them with the cross. I want to enhance the cross. I'm going to do it in these spaces between the strips. So I think I'm just going to do, I've got some of my linen thread here. I'm just going to do 2 bars on this one. I'll start with a blanket stitch bar. Oh, my chiffon or whatever it is just shredding away. Oh dear. I knew it's what happens over the years. There'll be nothing left of it, and it will just be 3 strips of fabric on this cross and lots of shimmery fibres probably. There's my first bar, and I think I'll put another one down here. Let's do a long one over 2 strips. You can play around with these bars and just work with or against the woven cross. You could do really long bars and make a cross of your 2 bars. I'm going to make crosses of the bars, but just working the ones from top left to bottom right at the moment. Sometimes helps. Your thread does get twisted doing these, so do let it hang loose every now and again. It helps stop your bars from twisting, particularly longer ones. That's my little bars that I've put in. I'm going to add a bunch more just in between the strips of the weaving and make some more crosses. So I will put a bar going in the opposite direction to the 3 that I've done, and then we'll come back, trim it down and pop it in the book. I'll come back and show you how it's looking. I've put a bunch of bars on. Let me just come in a little bit closer. And it occurred to me that there's another kind of bar that we can do, and that is a bead bar. And I remembered I got some little minty coloured beads. They're sort of tiny bugle beads, and I thought it might be nice to put a few of those on. So I'm just using some machine cotton, come up through, put a big knot on the back, and I'm just catching a bunch of beads on my needle. So don't have to be particularly fussy. If you've got more than one shade of mint, you could do these in lots of different beads, but I've only got this one shade of mint. So just put a load on, and I'm just going to go back down through my felt and secure it with a big knot on the back. And then I can go somewhere else. Let's go over here and do the same again. So bead bars as well, if you want to add some of those, might be nice. Right, here's the finished piece. So we've got our cross, all our bars and our little bead bars. Can't decide whether I like it or not. I don't know what happened with this bar here. What a mess that is. Just to show that I don't always get it right. So here we go. Should we have a bit of a flip through? Because I'll just do the last few. So do you remember? I can't remember what week it was. I've got a feeling it was week 11. We got silver and hand and that knot stitch, pearl stitch that you never want to do with a metallic thread, but there we go. So that was that one. Then we got berry and wedge and feather stitch. I like that one. Then we got black and needle weaving and cloud shape. So did that cloud and it doesn't pick up on camera at all, but you might be able to see, if I move it around, some glittery raindrops that I put on at the bottom. You can see it in real life, but the camera won't pick it up. Then we went into our pastel phase and we got lemon, which I turned into a hanging basket. We had the clamshell shape, which is underneath there. So that was our little hanging basket. Then we had the Easter fish in lilac. There's no such thing as an Easter fish. So that was lilac, and it was kite shape. And then we had crescent, and that was rose. And so I made some roses. Then we got pastel and wheat ear stitch, and just made a really simple one because the L shapes are quite tricky to come up with something. So I did a sort of patchworky thing that ended up reminding me of a flower garden. And then we had white and a woven wheel, and not a woven wheel, a whipped wheel, and isosceles triangle. So that was inspired by the Threads Through exhibition, and if you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link to it in the end card. Worth a watch, even if you aren't religious in any way. I think a couple of people have left comments saying that they were put off because it sounded religious, but actually the textile art is mind-blowingly good, so do give that a watch. And then we had violet and chevrons and cable chain, so I made my little mountain range. Then we had citrus, seed stitch and straight lines, an awkward one to marry up those prompts. And then last week we had our 5-point star and navy blue and whipped stitches, and we did our little origami. So here we go. Let's pop this one in. It's all right. I don't hate it. Right, what's the date? I never know what date it is. The 8th of the 5th, 25. And we want our prompts on the back of the piece of paper. So we had mint. Our shape was the cross. I've done it as an X rather than a vertical cross. And our stitch was bars. So I hope that you have been inspired to think a bit differently with this one. Don't feel like you've got to do a cross like a religious cross or like something you get on a flag. You can do an X, sort of X marks the spot cross. So we did a little bit of weaving. We've put our bars over the top, and then I added some beads just for a little bit of something different. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you've been a little bit inspired to try something a bit different. I can't wait to see what you come up with for this one. I do quite like the colour. I think it's working quite nicely. If you want to, you can join our private Facebook group, and as always, there's information about that in the description. You can also post on Instagram. Just use hashtag FSHWingingIt2025, and don't forget to tag me at Feather Stitch House so that I can see what you create. Thanks so much for joining me for another pick of the pots. I'll be back next week with our next pick. I wonder what it will be. Have a great week, and I will see you very soon. Bye.